Okay, so we're expecting two more. They will probably be coming hopefully in the next 10 minutes. If they don't, we'll get started. But would everybody like to say their introductions to the great Anson Maddocks as they were? So, Alison, do you want to start?
Absolutely. Well, I think you already know Alper. I'm Alison. I think Alper might have commented about me, and I'm just a huge fan. I also co-host the Concepts and Legends, and it's a really great honor to be here. I'd like to invite Elba to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Elba. I'm a content creator, and I'm starstruck actually. I am a content creator. I have the largest YouTube channel on Magic the Gathering in the Southern America continent, and your art absolutely drew me into this game way back in 1993. Cabrito, why don't you?
My name is Vinicius, but I think I am known as Mountain Goat in Portuguese, Cabrito Montês. That's why Elba called me Cabrito. And I'm also a content creator in Brazil. I'm not the largest, but I'm in one a little.
He's big.
Greg?
Hello, my name is Greg, and I'm also a creator. I'm doing illustrations, and I'm from Poland. And it's a great pleasure to be here because, well, some of your art were the first I ever seen from Magic, and I was instantly hooked on this. So I'm happy to be here.
So, all right. So how about we start? Would everybody like to start with? Because I feel like there's a thing of like art that hooked. Do you guys want to talk about the first piece of Anson's that kind of grabbed you when you were playing? Did we do that? Is that
fair? Perfect.
Living Artifact. I did not know how to play this game. I hardly spoke English at the time, but I saw the art for Living Artifact, and I was like, "Whoa! What is this cool shiny alien thing? I want to play this. I want to play with this card. Teach me how to play this game. I want to play with this card. This is awesome."
Wasn't there a hidden something in Living Artifact, right, Anson? There was something that was in there originally that got taken out?
Not, you might be thinking of Living Wall.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, Living Wall.
Living Artifact is just supposed to be a creature. In my mind, it was just a creature that supplied some kind of, magical benefit, but it was bound in a harness and probably dangling from somebody's belt. It was just like exactly a living artifact. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
No. Who's next? Who wants to go with the card that got them that really grabbed them by the balls, as it were, when they were playing? Yeah, right. Alison, what grabbed your balls?
That's gonna sound like some weird king, to be honest.
What grabbed your balls, Alison?
Ashnod's Altar grabbed my ball.
Oh my God!
Aaron spoiled by a good editor.
Oh Christ! Ashnod's Altar is just like although it was spoiled, right? It's a weird mix between what the card did, and I think it was just like the first thing that thing that opens up to the artist, right? Just like in the Magali Villeneuve episode, when I bought the Commander deck, that was like one of her artworks. Ashnod's Altar was just like a random card that I was just looking around, and then we end up like learning who Ashok is, and it's a card that like the artwork is. I look at that and like, but by the way, how was it like spoiled by the editor in that sense? I don't recall it right now.
How was what? What do you mean spoiled?
Oh, Anson commented that the artwork was like spoiled in a sense.
No, I think he said I was spoiled by having a good editor.
Oh, sorry, I just confused the thing.
Which we will use right here. No, just kidding.
Ta-da!
No, it's okay. Here we go. We got one more joining us. This is Fesbra joining us. This is and by the way, Anson, Greg did not mention this, but I will mention it for him. He is going to be debuting in Magic in the upcoming Infinity set this year. And Fesbra currently is on he has 2 cards in the game as well as of now. He debuted in Crimson Vow. So we don't believe in.
Let's all hold
There we
hands.
go.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
Yay.
Yes.
Victory. All right. Well, let's just go right back into it. So before we start up again, Jarel, will you introduce yourself, and then Fesbra, will you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi everybody. I'm Jarel Threat. I'm mostly a magic and comic book artist. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh,
And finally,
I'm Felipe Escobar. I'm a Chilean illustrator. Yeah, that's about it.
you also do Magic the Gathering. I have three.
Yeah, I also recently started illustrating for Magic the Gathering.
Two of my clients are in here. They don't mention they do artwork for Magic the Gathering. What is going on that they can't do this?
We're too new. I think we're too new at it, and we're to just like get comfortable with the idea that that's kind of like now our label. So yeah,
we're gonna have a talk about this after. Okay.
Hey, Fesbra. So for the question out of the left field, and is there any possibility you are, Christian Rojas?
It's. I think I don't know, man. I have really bad memory with names. But if you show me a face, I'll say like, oh yeah, that guy. Of course.
Never mind. He's a friend from Chile, and he mentioned.
Yeah, I might know him. Yeah, it's just I'm horrible with names, and I haven't talked to many people from Chile for a very long time.
Felipe.
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah.
Was I the only person who saw him freeze, or was that?
Yes.
No, Elvis freezing here.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna plow through this. What we were doing is we were talking to Anson about the cards of his art that we found to be as I eloquently put it, that grabbed you by the balls, as it were. And, that's right, Anson. I'm gonna go. I can't help it. I mean, like, I'm a class act. I could say mine, and I will, because it's my turn. But honestly, this is not going to surprise anybody. It's Sengir Vampire. I mean, who saw that one coming? Yeah, I mean, original, but I do love a vampire that is lasciviously licking at anything, and I even have more of a connection to it because of Sengir Reanimated project that we did a few months ago, which was awesome. We did a project where Anson recreated the Sengir vampires as through the eyes of 4 classic masters, such as Dali, Klimt, Dali, Klimt, and oh my god, Edvard Munch, and I can't believe that I'm blanking. Leonardo.
Vinci.
Sorry, Da Vinci. I've heard of him before.
Loosely.
Loosely.
Right.
I've heard of Leonardo da Vinci, I think. I love the way like fancy art people, they go, Leonardo. Like, it's Leonardo, okay? Like, it's not Leonardo.
You should push that in Italy.
Yes. What was yours, Greg? What was the Anson piece that you?
Oh, I remember it vividly. I was like 14 years old then, and my brother came home with a pack of cards. He got it from one of his friends, and I stumbled upon this card called Disintegration. And I immediately felt like, oh my god, it would be horrible death to die like this. And I felt it like in my body, and it's something that I went back a lot in my memories. Like if I imagine like human being like torn in very violent way, I always come back to this card. I'm wondering like what was the inspiration?
Nuclear dramatizations, things getting just hit from one side by something that was just taking them apart. I didn't have much time to make that one, so I just kind of simplified it in my head and went at it with sponges, and that's it. It was one of the faster pieces.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool because it looks like this character becomes like ashes, like if he was hit by a nuclear blast.
Oh, you use sponges.
Well, yeah, it's
that's like how you get that stippling effect.
Yeah, it's the old school clone tool. Yeah.
Wait, okay. For non-artists, what does clone tool mean? I see the artist laughing, and I'm like,
no, clone where you pick up part of an image and use it to do another part of the image and digitally.
I thought you said cologne, and I was like, I don't know what cologne.
Yeah. Okay. Where's your editor?
Sponge is even better. It's like more organic and random.
I have a loofah sponge, but that's about it.
That works.
Yeah, you have to rotate the sponge while you're using it so that it doesn't duplicate the last mark you made.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Trying to make randomness with the hand, basically.
Did you guys
exactly.
have? Did you guys Jarel, Fez? Did you guys have a card? I don't know if you guys started playing early or not. If don't be felt like if you're being put on the spot if you did, but did you guys have one that you remembered playing early, or I don't even remember if you guys played earlier?
I don't play, but
I have my first contact with Magic was in 4th edition, and then I quit. And my second contact was with a friend who uses cards as physical representation of something that happens on the adventure. And I remembered Pit Trap. I looked at it and thought, wow, what an art, man. And this was mind-blowing. I really love that art. The point of view of the guy who felt
on the Pit Trap.
It's awesome.
Now, excuse my dogs, by the way. Somebody's dog in the background barked, and that set my guys off. I don't know which dog it was, but I heard a dog barking very gently in the background, and I was like, "Oh, my dogs are going to explode." So, I will roll it back to you, Elba. I'm just going to yell at my dog for 1 second. Okay.
Oh.
Awesome. Wow.
She's 17 years old. She probably didn't hear me. She tends to bark at
Clearly didn't hear you.
Just roll with it.
Let the dog bark.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Bark.
She will do it until the end of time, because right now she hears a bunch of strange men talking. She doesn't know where they're coming from. She just knows that they're in the house, and she's discovered
Editor.
Oh, yeah.
I think "Let the dog bark" would be like a cool slogan for a T-shirt.
That does sort of sound like it's like a political statement, like "Wag the dog, let the dog bark."
It's the new equivalent of "Haters Gonna Hate, Let the Dogs Bark."
Oh God, no! That means Taylor Swift's going to make a song about it. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to have that. No Taylor Swift. No. Elba, you had a question about Animate Dead that I think
yes,
interesting.
We were discussing, and just before you joined, about I loved how Alper put it, the phosphorescent tone of your work. And Animate Dead, in and of itself, is a art that I really, really enjoyed. And it has a very Mars. The skeletons, the glowing skeletons, has a very Mars Attack vibe to me. Except Mars Attack came out like 3 years after the card.
3 years.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the Ghost Train inspiration or Ghostbusters or where does this come from? Where do the glowing skeletons, and not just the skeletons themselves, but the glow, your art, many pieces of your art have elements, very phosphorescent elements. I don't know how to put this properly, clashing colors in a good way. You can see that the blue skeletons Animate Dead, the scar on the fallen angel, the dashes of blue in the throne of bone. Where does that come from? How does that happen?
Yeah. Is that something you always did, as far as like in your propensity to create? Were you always drawn to bright colors and like that?
Well, okay, I'm partially red-green colorblind, so I can understand some of the discussion. You know, I do see colors, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know if it ever really comes into what I create that much. I think it should, because I know when I do pay attention to it, it does come out better. But I guess it just conceptually, like that was one of the first edition pieces, and what we had to think about as far as the way that the game was going to look is this. This is what we were working with. There was nothing that came before it, so I didn't know how much of what I was doing was going to be. I knew it was going to be tiny, and so it had to have a certain amount of impact, visually with contrast and whatnot. It had to be visible. I didn't know how good the printing was going to be, but as far as magic, magical energy, I guess. Like in movies, when you see an explosion, it's almost always accompanied by a fireball, and it's sort of stereotypical. And I kind of was seeing magic as this glowing energy. It puts out light and whatnot. And if a necromancer was, sifting through the ground looking for corpses to bring back to life, it might have this fluorescent, effect to it. And I had a joke with a friend. We had this fictitious idea called stiff rippers. Just these corpses pop up out of the ground like toast out of a toaster, and so it's kind of it's actually kind of partially related to that. But seeing like the thing that you're animating with the energy, seeing it sort of in silhouette, in front of the glowing energy behind it. It was just sort of a very dramatic and very visually impacting effect is what I was going for. We knew how small the things were going to be. So these early illustrations actually didn't have a whole lot of detail in them. So you just kind of always had to think of it as, okay, this is going to be small, so this has to look like this when it's shrunk down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that answers your question.
It's interesting. I'm sorry, go on.
I was saying it does explain how the energy and the fluorescence is kind of showing the magic is happening, kind of like the magic equivalent of the big blast of fire. I am, however, delighting myself at the notion that those paintings weren't very large, like they were like EA size, something like this.
Was it like 3 by 5 or something?
5 5/8 by 7 1/8 inches.
Something like this or so. But
a little bit. That's roughly that big.
Wow.
Would that, like, for you newer artists, would that be like something that you would just like, what if they told you had to do that? Would that be like traumatic? Because I feel like it would be really small to draw on, right? Isn't that small?
It wouldn't be traumatic, but at least for me, I couldn't do it that small. I have done painting. I think it would make it easier overall, because it would give you more of a preview of what it would look like on the card, almost not to scale, but a better representation, because I usually work anywhere from like 14 by 19 to 18 by 24. So like when you blow it up that large, sometimes things can get lost. So if you make the final painting smaller, it'll help you see, oh, this needs to be brought down, this needs to be brought up, this contrast needs to change, stuff like that. So for me, it might actually make it easier, but at least on that part. But as far as like the level of detail I could put into it, it'd be extremely stressful.
What about you, Fesbra?
Well, you know how big the dots are in the half tone, in the lithograph printings in the beginning. So you know that it can only get down. The detail you're putting in there will be lost at a certain reduction.
Like the dots per inch type thing?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, no, you guys like there was like issues with scanning and whether or not you could get like the colors right and things like that, right?
Yeah, that's not a thing these days.
I feel like they've mastered it a little bit more, I think, at least from what I understand. I do know that I didn't realize that you guys got your Magic assignments because there was a big list that was printed off.
Oh yeah.
And you just picked what was on the list and that's what you got. There was no like assignments of anything, which is totally different now. I mean, now you get assignments. Like it's not like they say like,
if we were available at the last minute to pick up a piece that was dropped by an artist for one reason or another, then it'd be like, hey, we have this card that needs to be done. Can you do that? And you say yes or no. But yeah, and there wasn't a world to think about matching back then. It was just whatever you wanted, because you were basically had to do the art directing yourself most of the time. And so it was up to you. That's why a lot of these pieces look really strange together when you have two cards next to each other, that one is more of an abstract conceptual sort of image, and the next one is like attempting to be a real world sort of depiction.
What would you guys, and this is for all the artists, what would you guys say? Because I wonder, I want to talk about imposter syndrome and success. Like, I find this fascinating. Have you guys ever, I know that, I've spoken to Greg about it, but how do you feel about that? Have you ever had that happen to you? Does it continue for you? How do you deal with that, that kind of thing as an artist, if it is something that applies? And
let me go first.
Okay, you speak first, Anson.
I think it's a real thing. And I think that you just have to learn to live with it, because I think it's also what kind of pushes you to improve your skills. Like if somebody tells you, I mean, imposter syndrome, if I'm right, isn't it feeling like you don't know how you got to where you got, and
right.
you think that it's people are just being nice, and
somebody's going to come and take it away from you, and say like, you get out, you shouldn't be here, you got in through, like you're not supposed to be in this class, go back to special ed, and like. Well,
it's not necessarily a bad thing to have in your mind, unless it's overwhelming you. But in order to keep improving, you're going to have to question your work as you go, and I think that's how all of us got there. How we improved and how we discipline ourselves to whatever degree to continue to make to evolve. But if you're totally in doubt about your ability to continue and be good, then I don't know, that's another thing. It hits me every once in a while. I would assume it hits everybody.
What about Fesbra? Do you have any like feelings on that topic? Loud boy.
I think it depends on the. Is my microphone too loud?
Oh no, I was just calling you loud.
No, all right, because I'm talking so much. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that it really depends on the point of view too, as well. Like, it's because for example, it depends on who's saying anything to you. It's usually like two people having a conversation when that happens. It's just like, oh, you're the best, you're so great, and the other person's gonna be like, no, let me show you some artists that I consider the best, and then we can talk. And the other person might say like, oh, you have imposter syndrome. It's like, no, not at the rate that you think that I have to. But then there's the other conversation that happens with the mirror every morning that says like, you suck. And that's a really more acute way of imposter syndrome that I think that's what I think a lot of people refer to, that is super toxic to your work, because it you pretty much starting the day or the work or just with that toxic behavior to yourself that is just like pollutes your confidence on whatever you're doing. So if you don't feel artists are always going to do their best work when they're super comfortable. And if you're uncomfortable and filled with anxiety, you're always going to be super tight. And you're just like, it's going to be like, I don't know, like your worst work ever. And that's going to even reinforce the imposter syndrome most of the times. You know, it's going to tell you like, oh yeah, see, that's true. Like I suck, you know.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense. What about Jarel? What do you think? Do you think that that's?
I personally, I've never had imposter syndrome. Now, I have had the thing when I was, you know, coming up where I was extremely hard on myself. Like I was saying that I did suck, but that's because I wasn't getting the results. It had gotten to a point, it gets to a point where you, I think, at least in my case, that you get good enough to where it's like, I'm objectively good. Or you have like objectively, you can look at your work and it's like, no, it fits with what's going on. I'm just not getting the results. And so when I finally broke through, I didn't have the, you know, the thoughts of, oh, I don't belong here. It's like, no, I worked hard as hell to get here. So for me, it doesn't apply to me in that way. Now, I do know quite a few artists that do have that. And I think they're phenomenal, but they're just like, man, I hope, it's like what everybody else says, like, man, I hope I don't get found out, man. It's like, I don't think I belong here. It's like, no, you belong here, man. You know, it's just, it's like, it could be used as a form of motivation for sure, because it keeps you on your toes. Just like what Anson said, it's like, that's what happens. Like it keeps you focused if it's not taken so far to the point where it ends up like depression and it affects your work on a daily basis. But yeah, for me, I've never had that.
That's good. I mean, that's interesting. All right, Greg, you got to say something.
Okay.
You got to say something, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot lately. I think I had imposter syndrome, or maybe still have, probably. But it's something I can work with right now. so that's good. I think that the problem is that I always see my current work or something that I'm working on at this point, and there is something that I don't like at what I'm working on. In the past, I thought it was like it was me a problem, but now I'm just like not listening to any of this, or like no the doubting voice in my head. And if I have this, it only points me to where to the place that I can work on stuff that really needs to be fixed. Like it really pushes me right now. And I've been in the places where it affected me in the wrong way. Like it took me down to the very deep depression hole. But well, it's a past now. Now, for me at this point, like most important for me to work in a good way is to trust what I'm doing. Like if there is a problem in a process I'm currently working on, that is something that I can fix, and I will fix it probably, and I trust that, and well, the imposter syndrome went away.
Good.
That's great.
I have another question, but I wanted to see, does anybody else have any questions they'd like to throw at anybody? Floor's open.
Yeah, I would just like to Alper has this phrase, which is basically like, if you guys could only look at your artwork with our eyes for like one second, right? Like it's just true. how we admire it. And it's a sense of like, I think, I don't know where I've seen this, in a sense like you develop taste way before you develop the skill, right? So it's this, as I said, this bittersweet, right? Of like, you guys knowing where you want to go, right? You know what is in living the work that is necessary, right? And I think in like this can, as I say again, like this can be the bittersweet, right? As you guys pointed out, it can be the thing that pushes you guys forward, or it can be the thing that like tumbles you down in a sense, right? So just reassuring, if you guys have any of that, you four of you guys are just amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty goddamn amazing.
Amazing.
I probably shouldn't have cursed, but I just did. And frankly, I'm not gonna have my editor edit that out because that would be goddamn silly. So we'll just try it again. Does anybody have a question? Because I can keep asking questions like a grade schooler. But I'd like to
I have a question.
Question.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many of you get to a point where you feel like your composition maybe isn't good as it could have been. You have another idea for it, and you just set aside what you're working on and you start over again.
Oh
completely.
yeah,
and it almost always turns out better than the one that you were working on. Is that
yeah?
common?
I've had that happen a couple.
That's a thing.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that definitely happens.
Can you
And
guys sort
you,
of
and you
break
think
that
back
down?
on what you were working on.
Can you explain that for somebody who's not a non-artist? Like when you say composition, you mean you're working on like a version of something and then it doesn't work out, and then you just scratch it and then come up with a different like version of it. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. All right. So
And usually you're glad that you did, and you think back on how it could have gone if you had just kept working on that first trial, and you're like, oh wow, that would have been a mess.
So do you guys have that? Has that ever happened with anything that you've done like professionally, or has that, I mean, what examples of that did happen to you when you speak of that?
Not an artist in the painting media, but that does applies to videos. It's like I've stopped more than once. I've been mid recording. I'm like, you know what? This script isn't working. This is not going in the right way. The energy isn't good. The lighting isn't good. And then I redo the lighting and I change the camera position and I rewrite the script. And that's how a 20-minute video takes 4 hours to record. But that's a very good description. You drop it, you restart it, and you're glad you did.
You know, now that you mentioned that, I've totally done that with scripts where I've just been like, yeah, no, fuck it. And then I start over again. And then whatever comes after that is like worlds better. It's weird because you kind of, you don't want to like get in the habit of being like, I'm going to just like throw away something every time, and you don't want to like get into the habit of like being like, oh, I must throw away something in order to get something good. But every once in a while, it does happen like that, where you're just like,
Especially,
part of the
especially
creative
once you put
process.
the hours in.
oh yeah. What was that?
I've done this more than once. I have a terrible memory. After I finish a video, oh damn, I forgot to tell that thing. Lots of times.
I've forgotten props to my own like scripts. I show up in the studio and I'm like, I'm supposed to have a telephone in this. Why did I write a telephone? I knew I wasn't going to go down and buy a telephone for this. But when I'm writing it, it makes sense. So then it's like I end up being like, all right, instead I'm just going to use this as a telephone. Well, this is lighter fluid, but hello. And then I'm just like, that's when you do the whole Adult Swim, like make it look bad on purpose kind of thing. Where I'm like, It was obvious this was planned. It was not, low budget or incompetent at all.
It's sad.
It does not always work with illustration.
Well, no, not at all. I mean, unless you're illustrating for Adult Swim.
You guys wouldn't have the like, oh, it looks bad on purpose. Yeah, that's maybe a thing of the comedy side.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you know what? I bet you guys would have a lot of fun doing Adult Swim. Like, if you guys, wouldn't you do an Adult Swim project if you could do one, right? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking, right? Adult Swim.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
That'd be fun.
be weird to see all of your guys' like interpretations of like Meat Wad. Like, have you guys do your version of Meat Wad? Just like
That sounds like a joke.
It's no okay, Anson. You don't know
Like, how many versions of Meat Wad could there be?
Well, that's the thing is there could be. Look, Anson, I don't think you don't watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You've never seen it before.
I did. Yeah.
Okay, you have. Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like,
I'm hip.
oh man, I would love to. Like, can you imagine? Like, you just call the exhibit Meat Wad and just have like all the greatest artists of the world just come in and do Meat Wad. It sounds very MoMA, right? very like, oh, this is brilliant, darling. Snaps, snaps, snaps. But enough of my garbage. One thing I would like.
I do wonder, and now this is the teenage me asking, because when I was a kid, and I guess that works for everyone, you draw stuff you like to watch, and it might be a cartoon, it might be a series, and you doodle. And from my understanding, people who doodle professionally, do you guys do the same? Do you guys ever just catch yourselves drawing maybe a cartoon character, maybe a scene from a movie or a series or anything? Do they just idly draw it?
Or like, yes, like OCD drawing, like an OCD drawing of a character or a scene or something. Because I definitely had that growing up. Like I was obsessed with Castlevania, and I had to draw the castle, with that like tower at the edge of it. Like I was obsessed with that. Do you guys have any things that you like sort of OCD draw, like for funsies when you're not working?
Thundercats, a lot. I would draw Thundercats.
Oh my god, Mumra, that was great.
I had this phase when I drew a lot of mushrooms out of nowhere. Like I didn't know why.
Maybe from Fantasia, or maybe you did a lot of psychedelics as a young child.
That's an issue.
That could be. I don't say no.
I actually, the first time I tripped on something, I was 4 years old. I had an allergic reaction to the Robitussin, and I robo-tripped hard. I remember it like clearly. Is it like clear? It was like it was daytime in the living room, nighttime in the bedroom. There was a pumpkin hanging on the wall, and I was like, Nana, look, there's a pumpkin. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's a pumpkin. She moved the pumpkin. It was just a shirt that was on the lamp, and I was like, Yep, there were Smurfs on my blanket, and she's like, I'm like, Nana, there's Smurfs on my blanket. She's like, go to bed. I'm like,
what kind of Robitussin did you take?
I can't take, it's got dextromethorphan. You know how when people take weight?
Oh, not what you took yesterday.
No, yesterday was just straight up LSD. Today though, Robitussin was when people take a lot of it, when they abuse it, it causes them to quote unquote robo trip. But because I'm allergic to it, I robo trip on a normal dose. And that was the first and last time that I took Robitussin, because if I take it, I'm going to be like out going like saying hello to friends sitting on the windowsill who weren't there, which by the way happened. Her name was Tatiana and she was not there, but I was talking to her. That's when my Nana got worried. I remember my grandfather was crying. He's like, what's wrong with him? And I was like,
he's broken.
He's either tripping or he can see spirits. I don't know which one is worse.
And the last thing I remember is they threw me in a tub of ice, and then I woke up the next morning and I was eating oatmeal. The end. But okay. So now that diatribe's done, but
back to OCD drawing, I guess.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess when you're an artist, like, do you pleasure doodle? That sounded really dirty. Pleasure doodle?
Don't play with doodle.
Only if it involves a Patreon.
What was that?
Only if it involves a Patreon.
I cannot believe professional artists only draw professionally. That just can't happen.
Yeah, well, come on, you guys know you doodle in private. You know it.
Yeah, there's things that you can be doodling on, like if you're on the phone and you get off the phone, you look like you don't remember doing it, and you're like, holy, what the?
Ooh,
wish this was on better paper.
Doodling on the phone that's a bad sign for the person on the phone, right? You're like,
yeah, I don't remember the conversation.
It's not actually like I have like one side of my brain like is into a conversation or listening to something, and the other wants to draw it, and it's like make conversation like easier for me.
It's like fidgeting.
I don't know if you have this.
It's like fidgeting when you have like fidgety like toys and you use that to just like calm yourself down.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You guys are basically that modern version of Da Vinci, right? They say like, oh, he could like write backwards and draw something. You guys are basically doing that with your phones. That's why I tell you, you guys are amazing. Jesus.
I have a worry ring that I twist when I'm talking to people. It's just a ring that spins. The center of it spins, and then that way you can put it right at the bottom of your put it in your lap and just spin it, and nobody can see you.
Isn't that for knitting?
No, it's for like, it's a ring that has like the ring itself has like a spin center.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah, that's for knitting or crocheting or something.
Well, I don't know how to knit or crochet.
You don't have to tap the ring, you know.
But I spin it.
I don't ride a motorcycle, but I have a motorcycle.
Spin that ring.
Hey man, I got it at Hot Topic, man. There's no knitting at Hot Topic. Is that place even open?
Alper, you could just like be doing that, and then at the end of the podcast, you can just like show up this like cool scarf that you did, and you have like everyone's faces. It could be like the cool ant.
I actually made a chain veil while you all were talking, just so you
God damn it, I told you. It's natural.
That's what I did. I've been knitting a chain veil in my lap. Question about contracts. I would like to know, because it's not really talked about often, is the with contracts and being an artist, I would like to know some of the times where like maybe the worst, like, or like when somebody tried to really give you like a shitty offer, like what's like the shittiest offer you've ever gotten? Like, as far as like somebody trying to make you work for free, or somebody trying to like what's an example of like a contract that you got in your careers where you were like, this is not going to happen, and it was almost audacious. Has that ever happened to you along the lines? I know, Greg, that I know that you have had that happen because we've talked about it.
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
I had one at one time.
What was the horror story behind that one? I'd like to know. I'd love to hear that story. Greg, are you doodling?
For me? Okay. No.
See?
Well, once I was asked to make a test job, which is like no. But this test job was actually even worse because the contract for it had it stated that anything I did as a test was going to be owned by the company who wanted to order it, and it was to be used commercially without my agreement. So, well, I told them to like don't call me anymore, like in a pretty way.
Yeah, you didn't say go fuck yourselves, you cheap pricks, because
that's your job.
Yeah.
That's one type of contract that you'll run into a lot, right? The work for hire contract where they don't have to worry about involving you in their future usings of the image or whatnot, but that should always be something and they pay more for, you know.
That's like test jobs, like that whole test, to draw a test version of this for us. It's like, well, no, you go look at the portfolio. That's the test drawings. Like, you want to see what I can do, go look at what I can do. And
that should be your resume. Yeah.
Right. It's amazing that some of these people have to do that. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about NFTs, where the NFTs are even more brazen with what they ask of artists. But I don't know. What about you guys? The bottom row of the art gallery. What's some of the most like crazy sort of insulting offers have you gotten in your careers?
Mine is usually like the exposure. We won't pay you, but you'll get a lot of exposure. I hate that. I've had that quite a few times in my career.
Oh my God.
In the beginning, you're like, you know, in the beginning where you don't really get any work and stuff like that, you do that like a couple times, but then you like quickly figure out no exposure actually comes with any of that stuff. So then you say, you know, no to everything that has to do with any kind of exposure. What I do now is when they try to do that, I say, I'll do it for free, but I want like 25% of like equity in this product, in this IP. And then I don't hear nothing from them. Yeah, they understand what that is.
Not interested anymore.
Yeah,
You know what I would say? Like, whenever anybody do the exposure thing for writing, I would be like, thank you, sir, but I can expose myself whenever I want to. And that's just what I say.
Out of frame.
very clever.
Out of frame? Well, no, I mean, I expose myself.
That was a request.
I wasn't going to expose myself now, but now that you mention it, it could happen.
Wizards of the Coast had us go through a bunch of rewriting of the contracts, re-signing of the contracts from the first edition, so that they had more control over the use of the images. And back then, the company was, I knew everybody that worked at the company, and it was like they just needed it to make things work. And I was okay with that to a certain point. And then they're like, well, if you don't sign this contract, and this is after, right before they were sold to Hasbro, but it was a much bigger company then still. They're like, if you don't sign this one, we're just not going to use your work anymore, and you won't get royalties anyway. So, and I'm like, okay. And it's just, there was a lot of things about the initial agreement that, if they were going to start making more money off the images, then we're going to make the contract in a way that the artwork itself has to constantly be something that benefits both parties. So they owned, the usage rights to it, but I owned the eventual rights if they didn't use the images for a certain amount of time. And like right now, they haven't used a lot of those images for, decades.
Well, yeah, and your reserve list on a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, partially. I mean, but the point in the contract was, if after 5 years we don't use the images for anything, upon your request, the rights go back to you as the artist. Okay. And I was like, that sounds safe, right? That sounds like
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like, I'd rather they have control over the images, and they're going to use it responsibly, and that'll benefit me. But now they're saying that the gatherer is used. That is their single stance on, or we're still using it. While in the contract it says product. So that's another thing. If you can look forward ahead when you're looking at the contract and you're thinking about all the things that could possibly go wrong, don't be afraid of saying, hey, can we put something in there about this? And make sure you're not undermining your other contracts when you sign a later contract. Make sure you're not. Sometimes there's wording in a newer contract that covers previous agreements and nullifies their power and reinterprets it in a new way. So yeah, contracts are extremely important to, even if it's not something that you think you're going to care about in 10 years, you might. So yeah, that would be a bad thing.
When you started talking about wizards and usage of your image, it dawned on me. Heirloom Minotaur was pretty much the face of the game for more than a couple of years. And how I'm sorry if I'm going into the business side of things and this is too clear for you.
Please.
Sorry. What is that like? My understanding. How was this negotiation? Was it just like, you know what, we're going to use Heirloom Minotaur and that's it? Or did they go through different artists, choosing and picking? I imagine it wasn't as simple to make a market research back then. How did Heirloom Minotaur become the face of the game?
It was something that they got a lot of feedback on. It was just a popular image at the time, and they just decided to use it as a strong identifier for the game. And they did eventually ask me if I would sign it over to them completely. So that is one that I don't have any rights over. And I thought, yeah, go with it. Cool.
So
it didn't last that long. Maybe I'm overexposed because it was ton of 90s, which is when Magic arrived in Brazil. But just like one day they came to me and said, hey, we really like this Heirloom Minotaur. We're going to use it more. Out of the blue. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much how it was, because I for a while I was working in the offices as an art director for a few projects, and they came up to me and said, "Hey, would you mind selling Hurling Minotaur to us completely?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And I don't even remember how much they gave me for it, but I thought, yeah, you take that, run with it. My name's on it. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. So that's crazy. Like, it's like they just, yeah, I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, one thing that I want to, this is kind of a dorky question. I think I don't know if I don't believe I asked for it, but like so morphine apparently in the translation in Brazil is, can somebody give me a clear translation of what morphine is in Brazil, in Brazilian, if you will, not Portuguese, Brazilian. What would be the you guys didn't give me a clear answer, and I need a clear answer. What's the translation? You said something that a grandmother would call other people's children that they didn't like, and I feel like you were
no, like something like Dennis the Menace. He is a capeta.
Okay, so he's a shitty kid. Is that what it means?
Yeah, something like that.
A threat.
and Charneca is not a very common word in Portuguese. I've Googled it and see, oh, okay, it's a swamp, something like that. And okay, that's the right translation, but I don't think. Have you ever said Charneca sometime in your life?
Only during sex.
Never while I play Magic.
Only morphine.
That's what I think they had in mind.
No, the same thing that happened before.
Well, I mean, it's like morphine, and I feel like there's shades of Pumpkinhead in there, just shades of Pumpkinhead. Did you watch Pumpkinhead, Anson?
Yeah,
because I feel like there's like a
great movie.
I love that movie. I feel like it's sort of like, I feel like if like the Cenobites and Pumpkinhead had a baby, that would be morphine.
I was gonna say morphine's like the teenager Pinhead before he got all the pins.
Teenager, like, can you imagine Pinhead with his voice breaking? I will.
Not so scary doing the early
pins impacted underneath his skin,
Yeah, right. And they'd be like, "Oh, Pinhead's over again. He's such a shitty kid." I don't know the Portuguese word again. He's like, what is it?
De capeta.
De capeta.
Capeta.
No, capeta.
That's so. It just sounds lovely,
Oh yeah.
It doesn't sound like.
Don't tell it to a old religious don't doubt. Never.
Or do it.
Oh, do it.
I learned some Brazilian. I know that I'm a bicha, and that's what I am. So there you go. That's right. That one's for Brazilian. Anson, I called myself a. I'll censor that out in.
I'm using Google Translate.
Oh, no need to. I called myself a slur, but I can slur myself. It's what I am. It's my right. I can slur myself and Google myself all night long. And
talking about exposure, right? Talking about self-exposure.
I'll expose myself.
Oh my! I have a question for the artist. Again, a little bit more technical, right? It's about going back to the contracts and stuff. When I wish one day I became wealthy and powerful to commission you all to put a lot of paintings on my castle. Of course, that's what I wish. I already had the dungeon, so I just need the rest of the castle. How do you guys think is the best approach when we, for example, when we have an idea, how do we give it to you? Is there like any payment best method? Is there any
or like, is there any way that would piss you off right away or something?
Is there, yeah, it's like something that's bad practice, good practices. And when we both have an idea, when it's okay to like ask for an early drawing to see if we can like compare and how this is going. And based on what Anson said, how do you guys settle the rights to that if I happen to commission something and I want to use to something?
Oh man, I don't think that there's any wrong way of doing it. I think like due to our experience, we've gone through everything. And if you're polite enough, we'll be grateful because, you know, I mean, I've stumbled upon like just all sorts of, I mean, we all have like a myriad of clients. So I think like as long as you type something like, hey, how's it going? I have this idea of like a man that is just hitting a turtle and I have $700. Can you make it happen? Yeah, sure, man. Like, yeah, I could, you know, you know,
as long as you have the good intentions and the money, it's all good.
No, and even like it not necessarily, you know, some of our artists, I mean, like if you ask, like, I don't know, like whatever artist is popping right now, you know, like he's gonna tell you like, yeah, I don't think that price is right for me, but I feel like everybody can accommodate every type of price and just cut in other areas. And we will always do the effort to just like try to guide you throughout that because that's our job as well.
I agree with that in theory, but as your agent, I'm going to say no. You've got to. There's a certain number we got to hit. I'm just saying.
Avoid agents.
That's the agent me talking, but I think it's a very lovely sentiment. It's lovely sentiment.
Yeah, like artists are flexible people usually.
Same with you too, buddy. You're charging a certain amount too.
But so yes, basically, let's not be assholes and try to hire people. That's it.
Oh no, I think hire people if you can. I mean, it's in fact, Jarel, I just saw you recently did a commission for a guy, Will Larson. You did his Dungeons and Dragons character, which was really cool. And that seemed to be a really great collaboration. And I know Fez has been working on some great stuff that I can't talk about, but there's some great commissions that have been coming. Hey, no, violence is for later when the cameras are
shoot a hit.
But
I'm watching too much Star Trek.
Oh, I don't watch Star Wars. Nope, never seen it.
That's clickbait.
Never seen Jar. I don't know. Jar Jar Binks. Don't quite know what she is, but fine. But I have problems with Jar Jar Binks. Okay, if we're just gonna be like Jar Jar Binks is problematic.
Alper, let's not get into politics.
We don't bring that name up.
Let's not get into politics.
You don't say that name.
It's bad writing.
Don't you Jar Jar Binks me?
Jar Jar Binks is just terrible writing. It's what happens when people become billionaires and nobody says, George, no.
We know you left the open space there for George.
George, stop. George. And he's like, I can't stop. I've literally, I'm George Lucas. I've made so much money. Nothing I can do is bad. Same with J.K. Rowling. And I'm not getting political, just saying she thinks that she can give opinions about stuff now that she can't and she shouldn't. And it's like, just keep it, just write about wizards, you crazy lady. But no.
Let's make it just like Fesbra did. Like he make a good piece on the artwork. He makes a good Magic the Gathering piece, and he puts a really cool story behind it. So really, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe I'll commission him to do a picture of George Lucas and J.K. Rowling with like zippers over their mouths. Just be like, stop it. And maybe in a nice, I don't know, like in a nice like hot spring to give it like an ethereal quality.
Hot spring.
Cherry blossoms all over.
Well, yeah, cherry blossoms all over. Blood petals.
Let's not get into
that. That actually might be a pretty nice painting, to be honest.
It would be. It'd be sort of lovely.
I can see that in my head. Like that works. That could be like. It reminds me of like.
Write it down.
You know those covers they put on like Time magazine and stuff.
Right.
Instead of offensive, just
Thomas Fluharty or Greg Manchester would make.
Ooh,
Instead of political and impacting, just like make it wholesome. That's it.
If you guys want to steal that, I would be honored. I'd be like, steal from me, please. You have it on record. I'd be so like, now if that got stolen, I'd be like.
3 days from now, Jarel's gonna be on the phone, and once he hangs up, he looks at the doodle page in front of him. It's like, God damn it! I just drew JK1 with a zipper.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. Look, you know what? Steal it from me, people, if you want. I mean, that's my biggest thrill. Look, I got to play a little bit. Like, I got to play pretend art director with Greg, where we did an exercise where I gave him a Magic Gather. I told him to do Phyrexians, and I gave him an assignment to do Jin Cataxis, and then he did it, and it was like impressive, which it will be showing on the screen right now. He blew me out of the water. And then don't stop that. Don't even go there. Alison, I know you're going to go there. So I said, that's right.
I just love that pity so much.
Go blow yourself out of the water. But in any case, it was really brilliant. It was an awesome moment because I got a chance to like be an art director, a pretend art director for like a minute. And let me tell you, man, if I can commission any artist, it's so cool. So like when you did the Goblin for Will, Jarel, like what was the rough assignment? I mean, did you have like a guideline of how to do the character, or was there like how did that like happen? I'm just, since I know that one for a fact was put out.
Yeah. So Will actually sent me his backstory because Will had like wrote a whole backstory for him. And so he sent me the backstory, and I just used the backstory. Like, this thing was like, it was long. It was really long. It was really detailed too. Like it told about his character. Pretty much like the character that I painted was exactly the description he gave me of him. So it made it really easy to get the feel, to get the emotion I wanted to come across, the feeling I wanted to that's supposed to come across, to, you know, really emphasize his character. So he just sent me a description pretty much of what the character was, of who the character was, his backstory. And then I kind of just came up with the different compositions of it. I think I made 3 sketches for him, and he chose the one that eventually became the painting. It was pretty straightforward. Like, yeah, when you commission most artists, like, really all we need is the description and a budget. It's really the 2 things that most artists need from you, because most of the time, if it's like a private commission, there's usually not a deadline attached to it. So it depends. Like, if you do a deadline to it, then we probably charge you more. But or we say we can't do it to not like drag you along or anything like that. But yeah, as long as you have those 2 things, most artists are willing to work with you on something. Like, let's say you only have like a budget of like $200 or something like that. Well, for me, I can't give you like a 16 by 20 painting. But what I can give you is like maybe like a 5 by 7 something, like something small, or maybe like a artist proof, like, you know, stuff like that. Like, there's usually something for everybody, and we're usually willing to accommodate, because I mean, that's, you know, we're gathering, you know, fan base, and we're also making money, which is nice, and we get the support from different people, which is something that all of us are grateful for, because, you know, being an artist is like a luxury kind of job. You know, we get to make pictures all day. Like, who don't want to do that? You know, so
me.
Well, if you want to make pictures all day, who wouldn't want?
Yes, but I get it. I know. I totally understand. It being in the arts. It is. I love the quote from Sex and the City where Carrie Bradshaw goes, "We're like whipped cream. Like, it's like we're something you put on top of something to make it delicious, but like we're not necessary." And I was like, but I think we are necessary, whipped cream, Carrie. I think we are, because all I'm saying is a world without art would suck terrible. And blow at the same time.
It would be terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be like what Hitler was attempting with this whole, you know, degenerate art was bad type of thing that he was, you know, he thought that, you know, certain art could not be displayed, which was basically anything good, you know, and because, you know, he was embarrassed.
That imposter syndrome.
Yeah, right. But a literal imposter. So, I mean, he did. I mean, he's just like, everybody keeps telling me that I suck. Well,
Because you
if the
suck,
shoe,
bro. That's it. You just suck.
yeah, if the shoe fits, buddy. I mean, like, oh, you kind of suck. Oh, that must be rough though. If like not Hitler, obviously, it'd be fun to make fun of him. But like when you are like you come across somebody who just doesn't have it, and you're like, you want to be supportive, but you can't be like.
It depends on how old they are.
Hard.
That depends on the number of different factors. Like if they've been trying for a long time and they're still not good, yeah, that's one thing. But if they're teenager, early 20s, and they still don't look that good, it's like you got time. You got some time.
Yeah.
If you really like buckle down to it, like because a lot of us weren't good when we started, At least I wasn't. I was terrible, So, and I think most of us, like, unless you're like Fazendo or something, like, who was great when he was like 4 or 5 years old, like, stuff like that, like prodigies. But other than that, most of us are terrible. We just have a baseline talent, but not like a great one. Something that you could work with, So
yeah, Stephen King once said.
Like,
oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut someone off.
I wanted to say that like drawing and painting, these are skills that can be perfected like in time, in a lot of time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
I think it's very diminishing of the artist when somebody says, "Oh, clearly you have the gift."
I didn't work for it.
I feel like when someone says that, it's like they're saying you didn't work hard enough. You're just born lucky, and that just sounds offensive.
It's I can see that because it's like they like because at the same time when people say, well, he's he or she's gifted, like back when I was growing up, that was code for another thing. And so then not only that, but I do think that there is a quote from Stephen King, and I think this applies to artists too, where he said, you can make a good writer great, but you can't make a bad writer good. And I'd imagine you can make a good writer great, but can you make a bad writer good? Or I'm sorry, bad artist good? If you see what I'm saying, like it just switched artist for writer. So can you make a
depends
bad
on why
artist
you
good?
define it. Depends how you define it, because it could be technical or it could be fundamental. Regarding like your theory or whatever.
Okay.
Like for example, you can become very technical proficiency regardless whether you're a good artist or not. But you can become, because writing is different as an art. I consider writing as a pure form of communicating, because it's just actual thought put down. So that art itself needs kind of like illustration or painting particularly needs kind of like a medium to go through with that is more visual. You have to translate paint, color, and composition and a lot of that you can learn. And some might argue like that with writing is very similar too, but I do think that art is a little bit more filtered through that. But I do consider that you can teach somebody bad to be a good technical artist, but whatever they're communicating through maybe is not showing through because they don't have maybe the interest to just like deep dive into whatever I don't know, like daydreaming they have or whatever fundament to creating that piece they have. It's like, oh, cool dragon. Yeah, but what's the backstory of that dragon? What's what you're writing with it, and that it's going to differentiate a bunch of people that are doing the same red dragon to, this guy that is doing red dragon, that's a cover for Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
But is technically skilled or technically proficient, does that lead to greatness, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that it can be, many people are really good at painting, when you go into an atelier, but not many people are going to be proficient at creativity, I think, and that's kind of like a difference.
Okay, all right.
You hit the nail on the head on that one. Yeah, it's like there's a difference between being technical and being creative. Like being an artist is twofold. You know, because there are a lot of artists who don't have the technical skill, but are like fantastic storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like crude drawings. Like the I don't know if y'all know the guy, I can't remember his name. The guy who made One Punch Man, the manga artist, not the actual, not the redoing, but the original manga. The thing is terribly drawn, but it is so well told.
They even keep some of the bad drawings as a joke, right? Just like as a
So it's like that. Like you can take someone who's technically bad, but if they have something else they bring to the table, like storytelling, like emotion, drama, something like that, then they can be technically considered a good artist, you know? So
at a certain point, at a certain point, having a good idea will get you through if you practice enough. But if you practice enough and you don't have really much of a good idea, you know, I mean, everybody has their niche too. I mean, there's technical artists everywhere and they make a living too as well.
Right. So it's like, but I feel like maybe technical or people who are maybe more prone to like being able to the design aspect of it, maybe it would veer towards more graphic art versus like, I mean, and I'm not saying that there can't be people who can do illustration and graphic art. Obviously there is, you know, like James Arnold is a friend of mine, but like he's an example of one that could do both. But I wonder if it's almost like, you know, two different sort of disciplines where you split off, and there's some people who can do both, because you guys are very much, and I'd say this for Anson, all of you, the four of you, you guys are really big into creating stories with your works. I know this from interviewing you guys. I know this from interacting with you guys. You guys come at it with a story in mind when you do what you do. And but I don't know if that's necessarily true for every artist, which I think is interesting. But I wonder if that, for me, that maybe that would be where I would gauge what makes a good artist great, is that, because, but then again, I'm a writer, so I may be biased, but I think that's where I think the greatness can be achieved, because like you said, like One Punch Man, or there's tons of, manga alone, like there's a lot of poorly drawn manga that's just so good you can't put it down, and they're not all going to be illustrated like Berserker or, you know, those ilk, where, you know, they're just like incredible, you know, works of art. They can be poorly drawn. They can be crude almost in some cases. I wish I'm trying to think of an example, but there was one that was like, it's just so poorly done, but it doesn't matter. Well, okay, fuck it. South Park. I mean, if we're going to go for like,
yeah, that's a good example. That's a great example.
South
Park is an example of success.
Yeah, you would think that kind of, that show, the way it's designed, you would, if somebody had said, yeah, this show's going to be on for 30 years and you're never going to get tired of looking at it, you would be like, well, I don't know. But it works.
They started silly with those cat ads, but if you watch through episodes through years, they like perfected this form. They added shadows, they added a lot of cool animation stuff, and they like embraced what was like silly at the beginning and make it into the great product in the end.
They definitely add some they've added some serious flair onto it as the years go by, but that also probably has to do with the fact they've made $1 billion. That's made $1 billion, that South Park. Like,
if you're gonna look at South Park in that way, you can even go a little back and say even like The Simpsons. Like, who would have thought you would make like a yellow like human being, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, that's true. Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it.
I was thinking over here. Wouldn't you be able to categorize any sort of art, not just illustration and writing, and separate it in the technical aspect and, for lack of a better term, the creative aspect? Because I'm thinking right here, a non-creative actor is a spokesperson, or a non-creative writer is a copywriter, and those are careers, and people work with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking, as you guys were discussing the difference between a technical drawing and a creative drawing, not creative, but inspired drawing. I'm just calling it creative. I guess that everything, there is a part of that fire within you that you can't light or put out. And then there's the mechanical skill that you will learn through repetition and practice.
Yeah. it's almost like I feel like it's better to be gifted with the ability to storytell, and then maybe pick up the technical skills later than to not have because I think that would be harder to pick up, right? That nuanced storytelling. Because I'd imagine you guys were storytellers from the beginning in your heads, right? When you started drawing. What were you saying, Anson?
I was just going to say, it's good to have an idea of what it is your strengths are so that you can, push those forward. And usually that's when your enjoyment of your work will come out. And if you're enjoying it, there's a better chance that the people that are looking at it are going to kind of pick up on that energy. But it's like if you had somebody who could do perfect, realistic, photoreal depictions of things, that's not really what you remember about the art you like. The art you like has something about it that catches your eye, and it's like, for better or for worse. But if your memory of it is something that you enjoy, then it's kind of got you. And if that part went away, it wouldn't be improved by making it photoreal.
That's true. Yeah, there's very few artists, like maybe Leonardo is an example of one that can really do the both, like that the realism and the storytelling at once, the full package. But yeah, you're right. I think that the art that I love and remember is stylized, and you know what I mean? It's got its own sort of strangeness to it. And that's just how it goes. I mean, like if that was the case, everybody would just like paintings that look like pictures of flowers, right? And and
you can kind of see that throughout the years, right? Like back in Leonardo's day, the ability to make a realistic painting was a big, huge deal.
Right.
Nowadays,
Perspective.
cameras for that.
Apply something in perspective, basically, right?
Perspective.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Perspective was already something big.
the second photographs happened.
Cameras, so.
That's not entirely true.
It wasn't true? What do you mean?
Yeah, because even Egyptians knew about perspective and knew how to do realistic stuff, but they chose to do stylized things.
Really?
I know that.
Yeah.
Canonized images.
So
Yeah, it was like they had to do cliche stuff because that would sell.
Really?
As I can say.
But like, wouldn't that be because of any technical limitation that they would have, like any sort of like ink or means to apply the illustration that would like stay or, be able to be that precise or something? Does that count as well, or was just like the matter of choice?
it really was just popular?
It was more than that because there wasn't like you couldn't be an artist, you was one of 10 artists and you never signed your work because it was always done for bigger projects. You didn't matter as a person back then, actually.
That's sad.
It was more like a trade back then too. It wasn't like what it is now, where it's a creative thing. It was a trade, so it was.
Yeah, it was survival was a factor in a sense, right? Survival was a factor.
Yeah. So it was different back then than it is now. It's free now, like it's everywhere now. I mean, I think that's really the thing though. Even with the technical skill thing, like photorealist painters and stuff like that, they're almost like human printing machines almost. But there's still an audience for it. So
yeah.
It's very interesting. Although I can appreciate the technical skill that goes into it. To be honest, though, there's not a lot of creativity that is required for that to happen. You just literally need the photo, a high-res photo, and you just pretty much copy what you see. So the creativity aspect isn't as high. I guess that would be like an extreme example, though. But to meld the two into something like a vision of something, I think is like Anson said, where the power lies. Like
if you can,
enough.
Right. If you can look at something and in your mind take it and reshape it, that's a really fun skill to develop. Being able to look at a car and rotate it in your mind and draw it from another angle, or draw an object that you can only see from. Yeah. drawing something from different angles without moving around it or touching it. That's man.
Just pick a person. Just pick a person around and move you like a 3D model or something. Just like make it pose or whatever you want. Huh. And there's some interesting parallels even what you comment, Dread. It's it can even go back to the Magic game, right? Like we have the whole like deck building side of things, like people just like doing crazy decks or just like I just picked this card because I like the art. I just picked this card because it has weird synergy. And then we have the, as you said, like the human breeder side, which will be like the competition side, right? We have like people playing super optimized decks who like there is some enjoyment in that, but like maybe it's like you're there kind of for the competence of the players, not exactly like the creative side of things, let's say, right? Because if someone just shows up with a weird card or a weird deck, that's a comparison.
Alison, I'd go even deeper. I think in Magic, you being able to build a very good deck and you're being able to play very well are two completely separate skills.
Absolutely.
Yep. But can you do both of them and get excellent on-point artwork that is tasty with flavor? I know I can't.
Well, you can decide. I don't play.
You guys are so cool, man. You guys are
I played a few times.
I did. I'm proud of Greg. I got him hooked. I got him hooked instead of a bunch of cards, and man, he's smack jack right now.
No, I wonder. Do you artist folk? Do you? Both Jarel and Anson just said you don't play Magic, but do you guys game at all? I don't know, board games, video games, other games.
I used to when I think I was really big into Halo 3. I was really good at that. Back in the day. I used to kill people on that thing. But nowadays I don't. I probably haven't played video games since I was like 21, because to me, video games is almost as addicting to me as art is. So I had to pick one because I can't just play a video game for 2 hours. I can't. Like I had to play it for 10. So I had to make the choice to give it up. But I still like to watch people play, and I still know what's going on in the gaming industry and stuff like that because I enjoy it. But I just don't play anymore.
So there's a parallel universe where Dread is just like a very popular streamer.
Could be. I would probably be a YouTuber, honestly. If there was anything that I would do other than art, I would be a gaming YouTuber. Yeah.
That's funny.
Maybe a pro player. Back then I probably would have been a pro player or tried to have been.
I mean, I think you'd be better used as a YouTube personality, I think.
I was talking about back in those days, like when Halo 3 was out, there really was no YouTube. So I probably wouldn't have thought about doing it then, but I probably would have eventually weave my way through it if I decided I want to be a video gamer for life kind of thing. So
the way you did the commission for the Dungeons and Dragons cards, the way you framed that was a very good YouTube video. Like that was not only like to show your art, but like that was well done. That was really well done. So I think you got the YouTube thing on you.
Well, they've all got they're
great creative people, of course they do.
Yeah, and these boys are they're doing just fine. I think that and you guys too. Like, hey, Alison, we're the least successful of everyone here. How's that?
Me? Because I'm 22, I don't have a job.
No, I said we are.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh goddamn. Okay. Yes. Yes. Sure. Absolutely.
Lord, I was trying to insult us as a team. Gosh, no teamwork. No teamwork here. Oh. Well,
let's just cut that out. Ignore that.
We're not cutting that out.
Fesbra, do you game at all?
That's gold.
I'm gonna match Alison's.
I'm like, no, because we're the most. Wait, what's that? Are you trying to enchant me?
I'm trying to match Alison's background there.
Oh yeah, no, I always joke that Alison's background looks like a set from like Hannibal Lecter's built like the jail that he's in when Clarice Starling walks in. It looks like a dungeon. It really does. It's like you just hear like, hello, Clarice.
I'm the responsible for punishing every single hater on YouTube. You guys have to understand that. I am the legendary.
It's actually calling us from prison right now. There's kind of like a glass window on the other side, and there's the telephone that is connected to the microphone there.
We have 40 people just clamped together in a very big.
They're gonna run a train after this.
Where are they now?
So we're coming to a close. So I wanted to I just wanted to ask if there were any final thoughts or questions that anybody wanted to ask and or tell. Greg, what?
Yes, I have one.
Okay, fire away.
It's toward artists. What's your take on AI generated graphics, which are becoming like more and more complex right now? We have this wave of Mid Journey generated stuff. What do you think about it?
I think it's cool, to be honest. I think it's at least as it is right now. I think it's very useful, probably for concept artists, and I think artists in general for like ideation and stuff like that, like doing sketches and maybe getting some rudimentary ideas together. But I know a couple people that I've talked to are like a little scared, like it's gonna put people out of business. But I don't think that's the case. Even if it becomes extremely advanced, where it could churn out a painting, like a legitimate painting, and all you have to do is press a button, I think it'll be used more in the gaming industry. Now, I think like concept artists might have a little bit of an issue, but I think as far as like traditional artists or stuff like that, because there are always collectors, people who like having the art in hand, like hanging art on their walls and stuff like that. I don't think the human element will ever really go away, but I think it will shift the landscape of the illustration industry a bit. But I think it'll take time.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Fez?
I don't know. I'm out. No.
Okay.
No, I have both. Yeah, both positive and negative. Like type of opinions towards that as well. I think it's definitely like something that you said that I think it was very, very accurate. That I think it's definitely going to shift the way that we do business with companies, and it's going to force us in both bad and good ways to have to readdress contracts, readdress business with them. And it's going to be interesting because it's going to, I feel I have this impression that we illustrators we've been like pretty, without being pejorative, like we've been pretty lazy about contracts, and we've been pretty lazy about like doing business with companies, especially newcomers like me that
you also don't know any better when you're starting out.
Yeah, exactly. And companies take advantage of that, without having to blame them, of course, because company's going to company, you know, anyways. So, and I do think that that's going to force us to just like really like buckle up our belts and just like, just address the situation directly and say like, hey, so prices are going down because of, the ways that the technology is going, every time it's faster, but it's not making it more favorable for us, because that's what always happens. I mean, like with Photoshop or all the technology that we have in our favor in order to make our work faster doesn't mean that we're getting paid more. If nothing, you would think like, back in the day, like people used to think like, well, in the year 2020 or the year 2012, people will work 4 hours a day. It's like, no, it's kind of the opposite now. It's like production has been ramped up so much that has dropped the prices to the bottom, and we really haven't really addressed it. And with illustration, I think that will be the case in a more extreme way. So that will force us to just like go back to the table and just be like, hey, we need to just like, renegotiate things, readdress how we do business.
Can I ask, well, at least what I feel like I see happening with the AI stuff is I feel like there might be a brief period where the corporate type people are going to say, oh, well, we don't need concept artists anymore. We've got AI. And they're going to base a game off of AI generated concept art. It's going to come out and people are going to just despise it. It's going to be a massive flop. I feel like they're going to push that envelope and try to make a way so that artists are not necessary anymore.
Well, I mean, they're already doing that. As far as, well, they're already doing that in terms of, you know, they Rockstar put out GTA Remastered, and all they did was Rockstar did. They put out GTA, they put out the trilogy. So they put out GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas as a remaster.
So you can pay a seventh time.
Rezzed it up. They just rezzed it up through AI, but they didn't address the thing. And because they only rezzed it up with AI, it literally didn't perform well at all. Like it was buggy, like things were misspelled because the AI didn't understand what it was originally. It messed up faces and stuff like that. So gaming companies are already like trying to rely on AI, but AI can't do the job right.
Yeah.
It just can't. Like it doesn't know intention. So, like,
but that I do believe that will change though in the future.
I agree.
I think it will change rapidly, and as soon enough, you know, us illustrators will become art directors to AI. You know, I feel, and that will be kind of like a little bit of like more of a technical, I think, maybe job that we have. Anson, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that imagine that AI got everything perfect, just right. If you know that it's AI, that matters actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're watching something and you knew it was all real actors, you know, on set, you know, with props and stuff, and they're acting, and that's how they looked, but if you had that same thing and it was done in AI, which one would you find more interesting to watch?
Yeah, there's an uncanny valley. Yeah. It's like when you see CGI. The realization though is that now you see some CGI that looks almost real and is almost kind of like, I would say, like even puts like some added value to certain things that you back in the day you couldn't do. Like for example, all Marvel movies are, you know, thank God CGI, because, you know, otherwise you couldn't be able to do them.
There are some CGIs in films that are like they're so good you can't catch that they're CGI. And when you find out that they're CGI, you're like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that. But it's never something that's like the human face or some like it's never the close-up of a person. It's never something that is like it's never something that has like life to it or real, you know, like just real really it's just life. Like they can imitate smokes, they can imitate water. I mean, Finding Nemo still looks good, right? It's still amazing. But I don't think that they can nail the way that we can nail the human aspect.
There's subtlety to it that I don't know if AI could truly match, not to the point that we know that we couldn't tell the difference to a T. Like I think there'll always be like it'll be just a little off, and because it's a little, it's the equivalent of, you know, an artist who can't paint hands and can't paint a portrait. Like, you know, when a portrait, like any artist, if you want to know how good they are, look at how they paint faces and look how they paint hands, because you can't fudge those. You fudge a hand, you fudge a face, people can tell. Even if it's just slightly off, like you can tell like something's wrong with it. I mean, people can't pinpoint what it is, but it's like, nah, it's just, it looks lifeless for some reason, but you can't tell why. Like, I think AI art, at least, well, I think even if at its apex, I don't think it will be to the point where it could mimic an actual person making it, because there are certain decisions that a person makes, or even mistakes a person makes, that a computer wouldn't be able to completely copy. Yeah, because they exactly. A computer can't account for that. The human error. You know,
and not even that, like the Eric Gist, I saw a video of him that he was signing one of the cards, but they were making supposedly one of the first videos on like real-time video evidence of signing, because that's now important. And the fact, related to AI, what Anson and you've been talking about as well, that has to do with like authenticity and like, how do you know? Because you have to, the information is going to be there anyways. People are going to be, even if you cannot tell one AI from the other, in a, supposed future, the information that's AI and this is not, I mean, it's going to be real. I mean, the fact that you have fake bottles of wine or fake Mona Lisa, it's a whole different thing. Like that's a reproduction of something, and the original thing has way more value. And towards the Eric Gist thing, the video, like for example, now there's value on like taking a video of him signing a card, because that way you can attest like, oh, this is like, original, and here's the proof. Not only that the card of like the Black Lotus that has been like put in a little glass box with the stamp on it by somebody that says like, yeah, this is kind of like A prime, I don't know, rib steak or something, and it's going to be the same thing for art. I think
they really value. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, isn't that also a resource for someone else to figure out how to sign it exactly like they signed it?
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's why I say like it's going to be good and bad at the same time, because it's going to force us to readdress everything again and all the problems that we've been having, regarding contracts and regarding jobs, and having to just like come down to the table and just like talk about things and really address them. And I think it's going to be good.
This conversation is really like really really well done, and I think like Jarel like pointed out really important points, right? Two things I'd like to say about that, right? When if I recall correctly, on the first Anson Maddocks interview from Customs Knowledge, like which was kind of like above a year ago, NFTs were the big thing, right? Like they were like on the rising, all of that, and after this whole year, after like the situation, like we got used to it, the situation gathered, the big players made their moves, and now they're like pretty much in a downward direction, or like everybody kind of knows what they are. So it's like, oh, that's not gonna work. Maybe in some niche, but like, people understood it. Like it was not like this boom that could be like the new substitute.
Yeah, it's not the hot ticket thing. It was.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's going to work as a printing machine, but definitely it's going to work in our favor for like digital artists like myself to just like definitely have, like something that we've never had, which is royalties. Yeah. And that is almost a dream to have royalties for digital art.
What's scary though is, don't you have to give those royalties, because you have to find somebody who's able to then convert it to that actual thing. You have to find, I don't know, the NFT elf. You'll have to share royalties with that NFT elf who helps you put it into that format, right? Because don't you have to know how to like mint it and all that stuff? Isn't that like
it's really convoluted?
But it's a process that's like, now it's kind of like there are places where you can search and have like trustworthy information on that, in a sense, right? It's still kind of new, right? But it's still like it's more than it was, right? A year ago, a year ago that was like messy. Nowadays you can find a YouTube tutorial like how to do it. Like you just have like the guy even codes for you. You just like copy the code, put in your stuff and do it, right? And going back to the AI stuff, in a sense of like the AI is trained based on like what other people did. And as Jarel pointed out, she does not know, she does notice the mistakes, kind of reproduces without a sense. And there's a thing of like, you guys kind of know when to make a mistake, right? When to like trick something to put a new perspective, put a new spin on it. And it's like, it could not be like, that comes the technical point or the creative side, right? It's not exactly
there are no happy accidents in
AI. Exactly, right? The AI just like goes based on that and doesn't have the context, doesn't have the training hours, doesn't have like the human perception of that, right? It's just based on what someone else is doing. So that's why it comes off, right? We have this rule of like the 80/20%, right? Where like 20% of the time, 80% of the work you did 20% of the time or something. If we are appointing AI, which like this is beginning to explode, we are just at the 20%, because again, faces, we can do smoke, we can do visual effects, we can
It'll never get faces.
Exactly. The 80% is still on faces, minor details, understanding the human perception, right? So again, we can see from a year from now if that's gonna like switch it over, or just gonna be like the new NFT wave or something?
I tell you, I know you have hope for NFTs, but I'll tell you right now, you need to dash that hope on the rocks like Macbeth.
They're just an interesting technology for me. They're just like an interesting. I don't want to sell it.
He's a coder. It's not his fault. He codes.
Me likes code.
He sees the technological.
Now that's a slur.
You could call me a coder, but not a crypto bro. Please don't. There are limits to that. There are limits to
call you a crypto bro. You are the world's most brilliant. Like, you are a code monkey par excellence.
I'm the world's most creative programmer.
I'm not going to argue. Well, you guys, this has been great. I've had a lot of fun. Anything else before we go? I have run out of anything intelligent to say at this moment in time. The rest is just verbal diarrhea. But I wanted to thank you guys for coming, because this has been really a very, very interesting conversation. A lot of insightful stuff.
Yeah, nice meeting you guys, and nice meeting you, Anson. Your work is legendary, honestly. When I started playing Magic the Gathering, and then I dropped out, was exactly on the 6th edition, and your work is just all over the place. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you guys, it's been great. Thank you so much again. And I will be following up with everybody about the different versions of the Meatwad. Don't think I won't.
Oh, I have to show something.
What is this?
What? Do that.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. That's it. That is Andy Rousseau. And that's me.
Oh my God.
Oh, Anson, you look like you're in a
Wow.
Wait.
So, do you still have that?
Funny thing is, look at the
Wild Streets. That's cool.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Is it backwards?
Anson, I didn't realize you were in New Kids on the Block.
Yeah, man. It's the art director for the Seattle Weekly asked Andy and I to pose for this, because he didn't have any material for this art. But it's all about violence downtown Seattle and stuff.
Oh wow.
I love it. That's a toy gun. It's like
Oh my God.
Complete artist.
yeah, we were two artists that worked for the Seattle Weekly every once in a while.
That's great.
Oh
Anson Wild Street Maddocks. That's awesome.
So funny.
That's the cherry on top of everything, everybody. That was the
And that's how
cherry
you
on
end the
top.
podcast right there.
That's NFT stuff right there.
It was really good to meet
Exactly.
all of you. Thank you.
Hey, nice meeting you
It
too.
was great.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Bye bye.